water belongs to everyone. That there should be no one under any financial circumstance that doesn't have access to clean air, clean water, and thus clean food and the things that come from that. So it was from that really basic rooted sense, which I believe was rooted also in Pete Seeger. I don't know if you know Pete Seeger. He's an American folk hero, and he helped to start the clean water movement in the U.S. We live on the Hudson River, just north of New York City. It was a terrible tragedy. It was in alignment with something that I really connected with. So I wanted to make sure that if I was going to solve a problem at that point in the US, which I thought was plastic waste, I couldn't do it on the backs of people in China or India or in the US or anywhere else who were being paid low wages. I couldn't do it with inferior materials. I had to do it the highest level possible. And that's where our fair wage and fair labor came out of. And of course now that's actually gaining popularity. But where was that seed planted and where did I get it from? I have actually no idea. It's just something that, again, it's, you know, you just sort of breathe the air and ideas come to you. And as a business owner or someone just in society, if you have ideas and you promote the ideas that you believe in through your daily practices, what you buy or what you sell or who you engage with, who you choose to be your partners, you're growing that ecosystem of cultural shifts, step by step, and incrementally we can shift culture. And I wrote this book, Tiny Business, to basically say, yes, you can. You can do this. If I did this, and by the way, I am continuing to make a very nice living. And in the book it says I'm making a living, not a killing. So I make that distinction because I think we've been pushed into a culture, or maybe we've just drifted into a culture. But we find ourselves in a culture of your bathroom in your house that you throw away. Yeah, that was weird, right? But Ziploc bags, I've seen them in all the groceries, you know, when did we start that? Anyway, so the idea was, can you though use business as a platform for change? And I feel like I did that. And for years, though, I felt like I didn't. It was complete failure. It was like, started in 1989. It wasn't until about 2007 when we had a huge lift. Our product was on Oprah. Okay, that was the big moment. Oprah pointed to our bags on air. And we went from like 700,000 to 2.2 million in a year. But it wasn't just Oprah. It was basically being consistently persistent with an idea and with the way that we were running the business, to be available for the opportunity, to see the opportunity, to try to get on Oprah, to make it happen, to manifest it, and then to be ready when the orders came in. So it was a whole sort of gradual build-up to be ready for that moment, and then an awareness in that moment that we couldn't maybe fill all the orders that should happen to you, but you could. But the relationships were good enough with. As a part of the tiny house movement, it's about what you really seriously consider bringing in and holding on to and using versus all the other stuff that you say no to. So it's having your framework very consciously considered, so that you know when an opportunity comes in, whether you want to open your door to that opportunity or you want to say, pass, not me, not now. Which leads me into another part of tiny business, which is simply, when you're in business, lots of opportunities come to you, good and bad. And if you're always running after them, you're not driving the bus. It's better to be driving the bus or the vehicle or whatever, so that you can actually shape the business so that it's a reflection of who you are, what you believe in, and it satisfies your needs. So for me, my needs were, I had to make a living, and I needed to do it with something that I believed in, and I wanted a lot of free time because I was raising a child and then 2 children. And so, by the way, my son's cartoons are in that book. So if you read The New Yorker, he does cartoons for The New Yorker. And then my daughter is now an engineer. And we were just talking about this, about hope. I mean, where does this, right? If we felt hopeless, we wouldn't do anything. But for some reason, we feel like we can make changes. And what I'm trying to say with this book is, with very sound business practices, I don't need to go into, there's very sound business practices in the book in terms of money management and time management and cash flow and all the really specific things you need to know about how to manage your gross and your net profit and how to build your assets. Doing this, it's like I was a mom, I had 1 then 2 babies. I had a family, and I wasn't running around to meetings at all for about 12 years. I never went to any meetings. I didn't go networking and saying hello to people. I had lots of things to do, trust me. I was not going to go out and shake hands, at 7 o'clock at night. I was making dinner or having dinner made for me, thankfully. So now, though, there's a very welcoming and gracious and generous environment, such as Hilder's created, where people come together to work together to solve these really big problems, understanding that problems can be solved with intentional, deliberate businesses, and that people can work together to support each other, so that it's not just a fight to the bottom, but it's sort of like what they say, all ships rise, all boats rise when the tide comes in. And I wrote this book specifically because a friend of ours' daughter, who's actually a makeup artist in New York, came to me and said, I went to the bookstore and I looked at all the books about business, and I'm thinking of starting a business, and none of them spoke to me. They were all really thick and dry and dull and aggressive and not inclusive. And so she just went on and on and on with different adjectives. And I was like, oh, so I'm part of all these groups that are inclusive. I guess people don't know about us. They don't know that this world exists where people are saying, no, actually, come on, be my competition. It's okay. There's not just one or two bad companies that's going to, who's the publisher? Publishing is a really challenging industry. You said that 700 books are written every year, just authored, just in Iceland. So I think there's 8 billion books on Amazon. I was number 1 for a couple weeks. In my category. But I went on vacation for 6 weeks. I haven't looked. but today you have the opportunity, if you want, I'll sign books. Hildur is also selling books. that we're just going to take the idea and go forward to the next person, to the next person, to the next person, and that's how we influence culture. And somehow we'll reach the politicians, but I'm not. Yeah. Don't ask me about that. So I'm on low power mode. So I would just like to say that I'm really thankful that I was invited here to speak. I just think that's really lovely and generous. And I kind of knew in my heart that so then I invite you to ask me questions. In English, please.
Very informative.